Darius, do you think you're well enough to function until we can get back into town? Depends on what's in that cabin. If that man is supposed to be my equivalent, the gods only know what kind of power he holds, I said. We'll look and see. For now, we wait until nightfall.
But you have reckoning, Astrid said. That thing can kill all sorts of undead creatures.
It can, but I'm not very proficient with it, Urian admitted. I do much better with smaller weapons.
Where did it come from? Astrid asked, taking a cup of coffee from Urian.
My stomach ached. This hunger was getting ridiculous. I found it.
My secretary of the arcane made it, I added. The two of them turned to look at me, Urian's eyebrows scrunched in the center of his forehead.
What? Are you serious?
Posede. They crafted reckoning to kill me. But, Astrid seemed confused. Didn't you say that they wanted to help you with Clara?
They did, I admitted, preparing for another story. When everything was said and done, and they returned me home after meeting the witches of old, they realized what they had done. I became a monster. I remembered it well, awaking in the night, seeing clearly in the darkness, and feeling a hunger I could not describe. Astrid scooted close to me and put a hand on mine.
It's okay. You can tell us. I won't judge. I don't know about Urian, but I won't.
I awoke in the night. I was hungry, indescribably so, and I wandered down into the palace kitchens to see if there were any leftover pies or anything that I could pilfer. I assumed that the magic had taken a toll on me. I wondered what they did, what kind of power I now contained. The magical fire crackled, and I reveled in its warmth. I suddenly felt very, very cold. There was nothing in the kitchen for me to eat, but the cook's son, Bertrand, worked on preparing the bread for the next day. It was early in the morning, far earlier than the rising sun, and Bertrand smiled when he saw me. I loved him. He was always so kind to me. He was such a good kid. He never did anything wrong and would blush clear to the ears whenever any girl would compliment him. He hardly ever said anything to anyone, trusting only very few with his words. I had not yet gained that level of trust with him, but I had hoped to. Oh no. Astrid could see where this was going. I thought I had heard him pounding his fist into the dough when I entered, but as I rounded the corner I found him beating eggs, no pounding at all. I watched him for a moment, his strong forearms circling in a perfected mechanical motion, but the sound did not stop. It only took me moments to realize it was his pulse. Something in me snapped. I killed him. After a moment of conversation, in an act of animalistic desperation, I slaughtered him in cold blood. I had never seen an animal do anything like it. After I wiped the blood from my lips and looked upon the scene, remnants of skin and hair scattered about the kitchen, I knew what I had done. I could not bring myself to vomit. My body wanted to keep it down. Astrid clung to me, her hand tightening around mine. I had fully expected her to pull away, but she did not. I tightened my lips in confusion. What was happening? After a moment of silence, she said, "Well, what next?" I began. I tore across the countryside. For weeks, no one was safe. My hunger was insatiable, and my actions at the time uncontrollable. Everyone feared me, even the court. Suddenly, I was not someone to be respected, but instead someone to be terrified of. Those who had called me meek or timid regretted their words, and I took out my grief on the people of Starkovia. The fire crackled, and popped as a log fell into it, sending a shower of stellated sparks into the sky. The sound echoed throughout the tree line, and the sun drooped a little lower. Bosede and the other members of my court devised a plan to destroy what they had accidentally created, and Bosede tirelessly crafted with the help of the country's best smiths and enchanters a sword so powerful it would make any undead creature tremble. The sword had a crystal blade, clear as ice, which reflected the sunlight so beautifully any creature with an adverse reaction to sunshine would be burned instantly. Urian pulled the blade from his tattoos, holding it up in the clearing for us to get a better look. A stream of fire erupted from the hilt, and he furrowed his eyebrows. "This sword has no blade. A result of my tampering. As soon as I found out Bosede was to betray me, I set out to destroy their work. I obtained the blade and shattered it against a stone, hoping to put it out of its misery. It turned out Bosede had put so much of their soul into the blade that when I shattered it, they died. My other advisors took the hilt and swore to melt it. But obviously that didn't happen." Urian nodded and returned the sword to its proper place, the light dissolving into nothingness as the void of his tattoos ate the blade. "I promise I won't stab you with it." "Was that a joke?" I prodded. "I think you just made a joke." The noise that came out of Urian's mouth was something akin to an exasperated cough. "Perhaps." We waited out the day, and I rested for the first time in weeks. It took an incredible amount of trust to close my eyes and leave myself alone with my thoughts, knowing full well that Urian could end my life in an instant with the blade he possessed. My dreams were tumultuous and filled with shadows of the past, but by the time I had awoken, the sun had set. I pulled my cloak from my head to find Urian stamping out the fire. He held a finger to his lips as we packed up our camp, preparing for whatever lay ahead. When we returned to the cabin, we found the fire still going inside. Urian gestured for me to go ahead and investigate as best as I could, as I was the quietest. My feet glided over the ground as if they did not touch, my shoes not even snapping a twig, and I peered into the window. The cabin contained one room, a simple thing that had been hastily furnished. The walls were practically falling apart after years of lack of use, paper peeling away and boards rotting, and the furniture inside crumbled, moth-eaten, and stained. By the stove, which had been piled high with broken furniture for kindling, 2 people huddled. One was the witch who had escaped us at the old mill, and the other a tall, bald figure. They were built like an ox, that I could see, and they both stared pensively into the fire, not speaking. I returned to my comrades and ducked behind a bush where they hid. 2 people inside, I whispered. One's the witch that got away, and the other's a large figure, not sure who. "Here's how this is going to go." Urian pointed back toward the cabin. "Darius, you're going to sneak inside. I'm going to cloak the area in darkness so they cannot see, and we are going to attack." Thank you so much for listening. What you just heard was an excerpt from my vampire lit RPG book, King of Dust. This book was a Waddy's 2022 finalist, and if you want to read more of it, you can check it out on my website. As always, thank you for watching. If you liked this content, please go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss any future videos. See you next time.